there's a great quote that says that crisis doesn't build character, it reveals character. And the crisis we're going through has shown what the character is of the camp community, which is we're here to help. We know about kids, we know about connection, we know about relationships, and we can help do that.
Hello and welcome to the Sunshine Parenting Podcast, where each week we talk about ideas for raising kids who become thriving adults. I'm your host, Audrey Monkey. Here on the podcast, I share my experiences raising 5 kids who currently range in age from 16 to 26 and working with thousands more as a summer camp director over the past 3 decades. I'm the author of Happy Campers, and I frequently do workshops with parents, teachers, and summer camp professionals about social skills, connection, and happiness, topics I researched extensively for my master's in psychology. If you want tools for raising kind, optimistic, self-reliant kids who become thriving adults, you've come to the right place. Hey, Sunshine Parenting listeners. Welcome to episode 142, which is first being released on Friday, May 29th, 2020. We're finishing up week 11 of ISO for the Rona. And we now know that this coronavirus pandemic is a marathon that is going to impact our lives and the lives of our families for many months and possibly the next few years. If you subscribe to my emails, then you know that my own camp, Gold Arrow Camp, made the really difficult and sad decision a few weeks ago that we are going to be unable to offer any of our live summer sessions this year. Many other summer programs have recently made similar decisions, and while hopefully some programs will be able to operate, we all know that for most of us, our kids will be home with us this summer, and we will be moving from homeschooling to home summer camp. Here on the Sunshine Parenting Podcast and in my emails and social media posts, I'll continue to provide you with encouragement and simple camp ideas for having a good summer despite this pandemic. This week's One Simple Thing tip is one of my camp ideas. With school out, longer days, and more open space in your family's schedule, summer offers a great opportunity to try something new. Instead of getting bogged down, like I often do, with lofty goals and plans that just aren't realistic, like cleaning out every closet, why not pick just one main theme for your family's summer? Something you can all have fun exploring or doing together. At camp, we have a theme each summer. The themes generally focus on one of our core values, something we really want campers and staff to learn and practice more. What's fun about having a theme is it helps everyone, our whole staff and all the campers, be focused on the same topic and learn the common language of the topic. We learn about our theme, talk about, and practice it all summer long. Our hope is that our campers will leave camp with a greater understanding of a particular character trait or value. And we've gotten really positive feedback that that is the result of our focused themes. So what is something that you or your family would like to practice more of? Would a theme around that particular character trait or value be a fun way to develop that character trait over this summer? Picking a family summer theme could be a fun way to have a clear focus for this summer, which we all know is going to be very different from any summers we've had before. Your theme could be around a value you hold dear, like service or gratitude, especially if it's a value that you'd really feel like it could use a boost. In addition to finding specific ways to practice your theme, you could also learn more about other people who practice that value by watching movies or documentaries, reading books, and learning about past heroes who practiced that virtue. Your theme could also be learning a new activity or skill as a family, which could provide some much-needed family fun and bonding. For example, you could take music lessons together, learn how to mountain bike or play tennis, or learn a new craft skill like candle making. Or perhaps if you're wanting to read more, you could do weekly library trips and participate in a reading challenge of some sort. The opportunities are truly endless. If you decide to pick a summer theme for yourself or your family, I'd love to hear about it. You can send me an email at audrey@sunshine-parenting.com. I've put a link in this week's show notes to a post I wrote about picking a summer theme, which has some ideas for you. You also may get some ideas from this week's interview with Cole Kelly. Cole and his wife, Kate, are the owners and directors of Camp Weequahic in Lakewood, Pennsylvania. In addition to focusing on their camp's values of gratitude, attitude, and courage, Cole spends his summers setting the tone for camp, joining in on the fun with the kids, and supporting both the staff members at camp and parents back home in every way possible. Cole also hosts the Campfire Conversation podcast, where he interviews leaders from the summer camp industry. I hope you'll enjoy this conversation with Cole that we recorded back in April as a Facebook Live interview. All right. Well, today here at Sunshine Parenting, I'm really excited to talk to my friend from the other side of the country, Cole Kelly. Welcome, Cole.
Hey, Audrey, how are you?
Good. I've been practicing pronouncing your camp's name. Here I go. Camp Weequahic.
There you go. You got it.
I got it. It rhymes with mosaic. Okay.
Yes.
Cole, tell us about where your camp is.
Sure. We're in the northeastern tip of Pennsylvania. So you can just about throw a rock and hit the Delaware River from where we are. It was founded by a family who actually worked at Weequahic High School, which is still Weequahic High School, a high school in Newark, New Jersey, back in 1953. And it was one family that ran it. It's this old dairy farm, basically, that they had a beautiful little lake and they turned it into a camp. And, we got there in, 2009 is when Kate and I started. It had been in the same family from 53 all the way to 2008. And then we showed up, took the torch, and have been running with it since.
That's so interesting. That's similar to my story because my camp was founded in 1933 and had the founder and then his second wife ran it all the way from 1933 till 1989. When I took it over. So same thing, like one family and then it's passed to you. So that's so cool. And is it for, is it a boys and girls? What is, and how many kids and stuff?
So we're a community of boys and girls. Usually we have around 450 children a session. We have 2 3-week sessions or 6-week session. And we've got kids in the past. We've had children that have come from literally all over the world, 90% from the US and up and down the East Coast, California, Texas, lots of different places. And then 13 different countries from around the world last summer as well. So it's been fabulous. And then the staff members from either, further afield, which is really kind of a neat thing because you get this little United Nations experience. That's just fun.
That's awesome. Well, I know the other thing in the way kind of we connected was you also have a podcast.
Yes.
And it's called Campfire Conversation.
Yes.
And you started it last year and I got to be a guest, which was so fun. We met in person and talked at the American Camp Association conference last year in Nashville, right? I think that's where we chatted. And you and your wife, Kate, do a lot of kind of social emotional education things both on your podcast and then also at your camp. So today I just thought you would be a great person to come on and just provide some sort of encouragement for families right now. I mean, I'm sure you're in the same place. I'm in California. We're in week 4 now. So this has been a long time for families to be stuck at home with, lots of anxieties and worries about jobs and just everything, and then trying to manage kids and their school and all this stuff. And I have seen from you and your camp and lots of other camp professionals that camps are really stepping up to try to provide encouragement, support, resources. So can you just share some of the things that you've been talking about with your camp families and on your podcast about ways to kind of help families cope during this time?
Sure. Yeah. I think, and just to speak to your point about the camp industry, there's a great quote that says that crisis doesn't build character, it reveals character. And the crisis we're going through has shown what the character is of the camp community, which is we're here to help. We know about kids, we know about connection, we know about relationships, and we can help do that. So one of the first things we did was to reach out to all of our families and all of our staff to say, hey, we're still here. We're still planning for the summer. We don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to be ready when the green light happens to get all the kids in and get all the staff in and do what we do best, which is, I think, a combination of that learning that can really only happen at camp and entertainment, which actually allows the learning to happen seamlessly and without the kids even knowing it. So we've been communicating quite a bit, being very open and honest. Like you at Gold Era Camps, we've been doing a lot of stuff online. Friday Night Campfires, little shorts that we put out there, little skits that we create that are just goofy and fun. So trying to keep people's minds off it while also always pointing back to the values of our camp, which is what we really focus on, which is gratitude. We talked all the time that a grateful heart is a happy heart. Attitude is the only thing you have total control over in your life, so choose a good one. And then building courage. We talk all the time that courage, you can't have courage unless you're afraid. And this moment that we're in right now, those values are so vitally important to practice and to put out into the world. So we've been reminding ourselves quite a bit, and also the rest of our camp families, just the same thing. Be grateful, for what you have in your life. Choose your attitude because it's the only thing you can control, and let's build some courage because this is a great time to do it.
Oh my gosh, I had forgotten. I love that. And how applicable? Oh my gosh, it's perfect for right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like
really,
the message we
funny
all need.
Because GAC led me to you originally, because I was looking up at GAC originally. Someone said GAC camp. I'm like, what are you talking about? Gold Arrow Camp. What's this?
That's funny. I know. It's just we actually just say GAC. That's the other thing that's kind of funny. Like insiders, we just call it GAC. And like when we talk about something being appropriate at camp, we call it GACA. So it's like we have this whole language around, what? But anyway, I love that. I would steal it, but we're going to stick with our same. I should have thought of one that was like, but all of those things obviously resonate with me and my camp, and I think most camps. And I just think I love that message that you're able to provide, because this is the thing about camps. We all have been providing this information and focus on this character and the social emotional things that we need, the resilience we need to get through stuff like this forever. And now is just a time where we get to say to families, hey, here's some of the stuff we're doing at camp that we do every summer. You can try this at home now and step in and sort of, try to recreate a little of that camp magic that they see in their kids at home. So I know you've been sharing some kind of ideas and things with your families. What are some of the things that you're kind of encouraging your families to try during this time?
Sure. I think the first thing that we put out there was actually a checklist. A lot of families are so used to having schedules, where you get the kids up at a certain time, have breakfast, go to school, pick them up at a certain time. So you go by a very scheduled day. We don't find that works very well at our house. And so what we did was we provided a checklist for families so that kids could then earn their free time. So just like at camp, where you have to every morning go through certain things where, our kids have to make their beds, clean up the areas, help out around the bunk, get their breakfast, brush their teeth, put on their sunscreen. Now we get to go play. And so one of the things we try to do is, all right, let's have a checklist that you have to do every day, whether it be your, at-home school, which everybody's doing now, it seems like, maybe some extra reading you have to do or chore around the house. We put exercise in for our boys because we know that it's really important for us to move in order to feel good ourselves, which is what we do at camp. And so then at that point, it's like, all right, you checked everything off and you trust and you verify. So that's why we get a list every day. And then they get to go play. They get to go do their things. It's funny, I used to fight the idea of Fortnite, the game that everybody plays, because our boys love it a lot. But it really is the best way for our boys to interact with their friends, because as camp kids, they have friends all over the world. And giving them a little bit of extra rope, a little bit extra time on that, if they've done everything, at this point, we're like, okay, no problem. So that's one big piece. The other things we're counseling families to do is whatever you can do to add in a little bit of fun. We've talked about, replicating our dining hall. We sing on our chairs quite a bit. So one night, play some music, jump up on a chair and just dance, just the whole family. It's goofy. It's weird. Parents are going to feel funny. If you have bad balance, don't do it. But it's a ton of fun, and it helps kids look at their parents in a different light and say, okay, they're trying. the other thing we talk about with parents specifically is that you don't have to be perfect. Perfect is the enemy at this point. You just need to be there and be with your kids and want to relate. And you might have to change the way you do it a little bit. Sit down and play that video game with the kids. Sit down and, we were cleaning out the garage last night. And my middle son, Jack, we found our old baseball mitts and balls and whatnot. We used to play a lot of baseball in this house, but we haven't in probably 4 or 5 years. We went on the front lawn and just threw the ball around. And it was great. It was something we haven't done in years. And this kind of situation afforded something that was really, really neat and special. And I think more and more families, if they treat this as an opportunity, as much as they possibly can, because I know it's difficult at this point, but if they treat it as an opportunity, they can connect with their kids in ways that will leave a very big lasting impression, because everyone's going to remember going through this. And what you want to do is say, all right, I want to begin in the end in mind. I want to figure out what I want to have my kids think about me down the road. It starts right now, and I can make some big changes right now and make some big impact.
Well, you've already shared so many things. I forgot to ask you at the beginning. I always like to say, who are you with during this sheltering at home, and how old are your kids, and who's with you right now during this time?
Sure. So we've got our 3 boys. Luke is 12, Jack is 14, and Cole is 16. Unfortunately, Cole turned 16 on the 19th of March, and the DMV closed down on the 18th of March, so he couldn't get his driver's license. So one little minor thing. My wife, Kate, who has been the light in the whole house for quite a while, and our dog, Mac, Camp Dog Mac. So it's the 5 of us, and we've been here. The nice thing is we've got a nice house here in Athens, Georgia. We've been able to really shelter in place. We've gone to the grocery store and we've gone to Home Depot a couple of times, but really that's been about it for the last 4 weeks.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciated your message about, you already shared so many of the things that are working for your family. The checklist idea, it's funny, that keeps coming up. My daughter, I had her on talking. She's a high school English teacher, and she shared with her students, and then she shared it with me, the same idea. The checklist is not just getting your work done. There's so much more to it. It's the kind of the well-being piece. So I love how you incorporated that, exercising, having a little fun. Even including that on the list, like as a family or as a person, just saying, what am I going to do today for a little fun or connection with like a friend or whatever. I think it's really important. And I do think that so many people are struggling because they're, trying to figure out this new normal, but instead of putting so much pressure that everything has to be perfect, just like you said, let's just do a little bit of fun and connection. In my family, so I have all people who aren't normally here, which of course for me is fun because I like seeing them, but we're all kind of doing our own thing a lot, doing our own work, our own exercise, but we gather for dinner every night. We have dinner together every night. And then this week we've been varying things, but this week, the bonanza of it all, on Sunday, we asked everybody what they wanted to prepare for dinner. And my husband, who's been the main purveyor, he goes out to get stuff because he needs to drop stuff for his parents who live about half an hour away. So he kind of goes out and finds stuff. So we made the menu for the list, and we're just rotating through. So last night was my 16-year-old made dinner. And then tonight it's my 26-year-old daughter, the teacher, who's here. And then tomorrow night it's the 19-year-old son. And they decided something that they wanted to cook and learn. And they're a little bit older, so they can almost just do it on their own. But so something like that, like it's an opportunity, like you said. It's not anything we would have picked. Some of them are supposed to be either on break or with their friends playing lacrosse. There's a lot of loss of what they're not doing, but there's also this chance that, hey, we're having dinner together when we wouldn't be normally.
So if I may share 2 stories about that,
sure. Yeah.
That I think is applicable to a lot of families. So at our camp, we believe in the kids choosing their activities, but having a structure built around them so that they can bounce all they want within that realm. So we do the same thing with our boys and suggest our families to do the same thing. We asked our boys, middle of last week, what would you like to do? If there's anything really random you want to do, they all looked at each other and smiled, looked at us and said, we want to have 24 hours totally separated from you. Like, oh, okay. So great. How's that going to work? And they said from 9:00 Friday night, after we have dinner, like we do every night, we don't want to come out until 9:00 Saturday night. And Kate and I said, well, we're going to do online church Sunday morning. Why don't you go until then? So, 36 hours by ourselves. And they went out. Well, I went out and shopped for them, got them snacks and whatnot. And coolers for food and whatnot. And we had an over-under bet, who was going to come out first. We thought the 12-year-old, no way. Well, turns out 10:45 Sunday morning, they had all three of them stayed in their rooms the entire time, came out totally refreshed. We didn't have to see anybody we didn't want. We didn't have to do any work we didn't want to do. It was fantastic. Can we do it again? Like, no. But
okay, so that is great.
It was a wild experiment, and it totally worked for them.
Yeah.
It's not something that we would have never would have thought of. Not in a million years. But they got to connect with all their buddies on social media or their phones. We let our 12-year-old have a phone for that time so he could do that. Yeah. And it just was a blast. They absolutely loved the independence and not having to worry about mom and dad for a little bit. So that was kind of a funny thing.
Oh, I love that. And that's pretty good because they're old enough to be able to do that. And then did you take it as a break for you too? Was it your own little mini? Or were you just like hovering, wondering what they were doing?
So the boys thought that, Kate and I were going to do the same thing with each other. And I said, no, I like your mother too much for that. I really want to be around her. But we got a lot of housework done. We got a lot of stuff done in the yard, and it was fine. But we also cleaned up because the night before it happened, my wife, Kate, and our middle son, Jack, went to the grocery store and picked up makings for a chopped challenge. They put our oldest son, Cole, who's Cole the third, against me. They gave us 4 ingredients, just random ingredients: a coconut, serrano chili, a zucchini, and sriracha that we had to use. We had 45 minutes, and then we had to create something. And then they judged it, me versus my son, and videotaped the whole thing and sent it to all of their family. And it was absolutely hilarious. So it's again, neat, goofy stuff you never would do,
right.
But it's that time to give it a try.
It does sound like camp in your house. I bet this will be daunting for a lot of people to think of all these activities. But I will say, it's funny when you said that, it reminded me. So 2 of our camp directors, they have young kids, like a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. And I will say, having kids your kids' ages or my kids' ages is a lot easier, much easier. So I really feel for those families. So she and her husband gave each other what they called spring break last weekend. And they both had a full day with no responsibilities with the kids. And
that's fantastic.
And they each took a day, Saturday and Sunday. And I thought that was a brilliant thing, because one of the things I think your kids were articulating, and I think is true for all of us, is we need breaks even from each other during this time. And that's okay. As long as the needs are taken care of, you figure it out. But I think rather than, if you have young kids, rather than both of you feeling the constant, like, oh, I need to entertain, I need to feed, I need to organize, I need to do all this stuff. If you just kind of say, hey, this is your day and this is my day, I think that might be a really good idea for parents during this time. So when you were talking about your sons wanting that, I think adults need that too. So I know some people don't have that option if they're a single parent, and if that's the case, if you have a good friend or someone that you're kind of can co-mingle your germs with or whatever, this is a time, like, find another single parent maybe who you guys can help each other or something like that, because I do think we all need like a little bit of just a regroup once in a while.
Well, especially we're all so different between introverts and extroverts. My wife is introverted and loves just to be at home. Most of our boys are like that as well. Whereas I'm much more extrovert. I need to have that interaction. So, I'm doing Zoom calls with people I haven't seen in quite a while, all the time, just because I want to keep connecting and talking. Whereas Kate loves the fact that she's got her crew of friends. She connects with them, connects with the boys, connects with me, and that's all she needs. So, I think if families are a 2-person home, in terms of, the parents there, they have to honor what that other person needs as much as they possibly can, because we're all going through this really weird time. We all have a little bit more anxiety than we normally do, and caring for ourselves and each other is really going to be just paramount during this time.
So true. I also really loved a similar way. I mean, it's funny how I think camp directors everywhere think alike, because I also did a brainstorm list with our family, like early on in this, like, what are some things that you think would be fun to do? And we came up with this whole long list of everybody's different ideas of what like family fun would look like. And so we're just kind of occasionally, we don't really have a formal system, but it was fun to hear everybody's ideas. And then we're kind of incorporating and using them, whatever. But the thing, when you were talking about your boys and Fortnite, it reminded me, so my boys are older, and my daughter is, she's 26 and she works full time and has had a job for 4 years, and she's an adult. They are as a comfort for them, there are some games that they haven't played in years
Nice.
online. So like my 26-year-old and 19-year-old decided to play Sims again, which was, I don't know if you remember this, but from when
Yes.
they were, it was like popular, like, I don't know, 10, 15
Mhm.
years ago. I don't even know. And I just think, okay, that's kind of fun. So it's just like a fun way for them to connect now over this silly game, so I think that's kind of fun. So I also agree that this is a time that obviously we are very into the importance of getting outside and being unplugged.
Yeah.
Also, this is a time to be realistic that people are going to be on their screens a lot more because of Zoom and everything else. So I think we need to, as long as the well-being pieces are being covered and it's not a constant thing, I think it's okay to let our kids, especially like you said, if your kids are like I remember when my son was little doing Fortnite with his headphones on, talking to all his friends while he played. I remember thinking, hey, this isn't that bad. This isn't the same thing as just being by yourself playing a game.
Totally.
At least and I think boys do that parallel play thing so much anyway that
Yeah.
I think it is their only way to really connect right now. They're not going to like how I do with my girlfriends, where we get a cup of coffee and are staring at each other on FaceTime catching up. They're not going to do that. So I think it's definitely okay to feel like you can let them do that kind of thing.
Totally. I had a great conversation with Michael Brandwine on the podcast a little while ago, talking about how play is so good for the brain.
Oh, yeah.
And we actually talked about that. He brought it up, the fact that our boys need to have that interaction, that gameplay connected together, and how much better that is for the brain rather than just sitting there doing it yourself all the time.
Absolutely. So I'm loving, I hear yells. And I mean, one time I saw, I'm like, what is going on? And he and his friend won something. It was some epic thing because there were like 350 people in it. I don't even remember which game it was. Maybe, is it Fortnite? I don't even know. Anyway, there was like a huge celebration. It was like his high of the day. We all were like, congratulations, what an accomplishment. I mean, it was just silly, but it was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, celebrate the wins when you get them.
Exactly. Well, Cole, this has just been fantastic. I actually feel like uplifted just from talking to you. So I'm so glad that you're here and sharing your encouragement with all of us.
Happy to do it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being here. We'll do it again sometime.
Love that.
Thank you so much for joining me and Cole for this week's podcast. My favorite for this week is from Dr. Michelle Borba. I am really enjoying both her Twitter and her Instagram feeds, where she's sharing a series of tips. And tip number 14 was rate the feeling. And she has just some really simple ideas that she's sharing. So if you're in the mood just for some quick tips and not really wanting to read or listen to a long piece of content, I recommend you check out Michelle's, either her Twitter feed or her Instagram feed. I'll put links in the show notes. As always, you can find notes, links, and other resources related to today's conversation by visiting my website at sunshine-parenting.com. While you're there, be sure to sign up for my email list so that you don't miss out on any of the great resources I have available for raising thriving kids. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd really appreciate you sharing it with a friend. Please take a moment to give Sunshine Parenting a rating or review on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. Let's end with a quote from my book, Happy Campers. Regardless of your child's age, remember that their best practice ground for positive relationships starts with you at home. Siblings, cousins, and close family friends are our kids' first friends, and by coaching our kids through the ups and downs of those relationships, we are helping them gain important social skills that will benefit them throughout their lives. Seeing ourselves as our kids' friendship coaches reminds us that our most important job as parents is modeling and teaching our kids about how to form positive relationships. It is from parents that our children first learn how to connect with others. I'm Audrey Monkey. Thank you for joining me for the Sunshine Parenting Podcast. Join me again next week for more conversations about raising kids who become thriving adults.